Hello everyone, we're going to be live in a few minutes. So, I'm Ed Krassenstein and this is Brian Krassenstein, and our show's going to start at 2:45. We're just testing a few things and getting ready. Just stick with us for the next couple minutes. Brian, would you like to? The way this is going to work is that we are going to discuss a few topics that we have pre-planned, and then from there, as we're discussing those topics, you can use the sidebar to ask questions to us, comment on the stories that we are discussing, and we will try and get you guys involved and try and answer some of your questions as well. Just give us a few seconds here and we'll start. The topics are that we're going to be covering today is the whole Uranium 1 scandal that seems to be back in the news. It seemed to have kind of faded away after a few weeks, but the Republicans seem to be bringing it back to light, and this time they're claiming that they have an informant, an anonymous informant who we have kind of figured out who it is now, and that this informant is telling them that Clinton was basically involved in a quid pro quo with Russia, and we'll tell you why this is seemingly another false narrative that they're pushing. We're also going to be discussing Alexey Navalny. That's the opposition for Putin. Putin pretty much barred him from running against him in the upcoming election. Navalny came out with a video just this morning, and he basically pointed out some facts that lead us to believe that a Russian oligarch named Oleg Deripaska was actually a back channel between the Trump campaign and Vladimir Putin. So how reliable is this guy who reported on this? Like, do you believe everything he says, or do you think he's just trying to get media attention? How reliable do you think his reporting is?
Navalny?
Yes.
He sets out the facts in this video, and they're indisputable. There's no denying that what he's saying is true.
And a lot of it's based on an escort, right? The escort was on the yacht with...
Yeah, that's correct. It's all based on... Here, let me paste the video link in the comments section to the side so that you guys can actually see watch a video later. Save this link and go back and watch this later.
It's pretty interesting. I didn't dive as deep into it as you did, but I think he's definitely onto something. It definitely makes a connection with Manafort and the Russia and Putin. It kind of connects everything.
Yeah, let's just recap what Navalny's video said. It basically showed that Oleg Deripaska, who we heard of last year when the Washington posted an article showing that that he was in communication with Paul Manafort, Trump's campaign chairman at the time. Manafort owed him, I think it was $13 million. I'm not 100% sure on the amount, but it was a significant amount of money.
And he basically defaulted on that loan.
He defaulted on the loan. Deripaska went after him in court to no avail. And then it appears that Manafort then reconnected with Deripaska and basically offered to provide him information on the Trump campaign, probably in exchange for this loan write-off. But basically, Navalny's video this morning shows that Deripaska was incredibly connected to the Kremlin, and those around Putin.
He basically had a private meeting with a Russian oligarch or a Russian representative of the government, right?
Yes, that's correct. The deputy prime minister, I believe it was. He the name of the individual that we're talking about is a man named Prikhodko.
And Prikhodko had very strong connections with Putin, right?
He's basically still is one of his right hand men. He he's been in Russian politics since the 90s. He's well known in Russia. He doesn't get much media attention here in the U.S., but if you Google his name, you'll see dozens of photos with him and Putin communicating at meetings, whatever. But basically, this Prikhodko guy was on Deripaska's yacht for a vacation, and at the same time, there was a prostitute that wrote a book about this entire meeting.
And she has photographs of the two men together, chit-chatting. She has videos of them. So it's not something that's made up. This actually happened. And previously they never really had a strong connection connecting the Deripaska to the Kremlin. Am I correct? And this kind of cconnects everything,
Exactly.
showing that Deripaska was meeting with Putin's right-hand man on a huge yacht for a fishing trip.
Yeah, Deripaska was known to be a Russian billionaire, and it was assumed that he had connections with the Kremlin. But basically, Navalny's video this morning points out facts that show that Deripaska and the deputy prime minister of Russia vacationed together on Deripaska's yacht. This prostitute was there who wrote a book about the whole ordeal. She used different names, but Navalny's video points out how he connected it all, and it really shows the full story. Now, once you realize that Deripaska is basically incredibly connected with the Kremlin, the whole narrative kind of blows up in Trump's face.
And Manafort. I mean, Manafort's the one that's under indictment right now, and you know Mueller has this information. If he didn't then, he does now. So that's a major check mark in Mueller's favor in his case against Manafort. So hopefully he'll get Manafort to talk some more in exchange for some sort of plea bargain.
Yeah. I'm connecting it to Trump because Manafort was his chairman. So obviously Trump knew what was going on as well. Basically, if Mueller can get Manafort to talk, Deripaska was the go-between. He was the back channel. There's no denying that Manafort was passing information on to Deripaska. That's confirmed in the Washington Post article last year. I can post a link to that article here in a second.
One of the commenters just made a comment: if Manafort doesn't, Gates will, and that's very true because it's not confirmed, but it appears as though Gates is working closely with Mueller now. And if that's the case, he's probably going to give up everything he knows about Manafort, which is quite a lot. I imagine he knows pretty much everything on Manafort.
I just posted a link to the Washington Post article showing that Manafort was offering Deripaska updates on the status of the Trump campaign. Which basically, meanwhile, Deripaska is now confirmed to have been directly communicating with the Kremlin and officials within the Kremlin.
And also communicating with Paul Manafort, who was Trump's campaign manager.
So there was a back channel. That's definitely the back channel, and it appears that it was a back channel. We'll take a few minutes to answer any questions you guys might have here.
That's an interesting comment from Les4IRS. He says you can't pardon a criminal when you're involved in a crime as well. And that's going to be something that the courts will have to decide for sure. But I'm with you on that, and I don't think the courts would uphold a pardon if Trump is involved as well. I don't think the Constitution would afford that.
What will it take for someone to do something? The bar keeps getting lower every day with 45. I don't know if the Republicans are going to do anything. You might have to wait until 2018 election in November and hope that the Democrats win. And the best way to make that happen is to get out and vote.
I don't think Trump's going to plead the fifth. I think his lawyers are just trying to get out of pleading at all, out of testifying at all. If he's subpoenaed, then I think he'll just have to testify. But who knows? I mean, Trump's in the past he's claimed that only mobsters plead the fifth, so that's going to backfire on him if he does decide to plead the fifth.
Why doesn't Mueller do something now? Donatella asked. He's doing a lot. He's investigating right now. These investigations take a whole lot of time.
You got to keep in mind that he's not going to come after someone unless he thinks he has everything that he can possibly have on them, because he wants to have the best case possible when he presents it to the courts or to send it to the House of Representatives for if it's for impeachment. You're not going to come after him when you know there's other evidence out there that you can still obtain, or other witnesses out there that you can get to testify against your subject. So it takes time. I mean, the what was it? Clinton's investigation took, what was it, 3 years, I believe?
Close to 3 years.
Over 2 years. And Nixon, I think, took 3 years. So we're still in the infancy here. I think we'll see other people eventually indicted in the short term, but if you're expecting to see the president indicted, if you think he can be indicted, that's not going to happen for a while.
Let's turn to the next topic. The next topic is the return of the Uranium One scandal. As you know, or I hope you guys know, is that the Republicans first pushed this conspiracy several months ago. It kind of faded off as they started turning towards the Nunes memo, and they kind of put that conspiracy on the back burner. But basically they said that Hillary Clinton was providing the Russians this uranium, allowing for this Uranium One deal in return to donations made to the Clinton Foundation.
Let's kind of straighten this out, because there's a lot of confusion about what Uranium One is, being pushed by the right, especially Fox News. Everyone on Fox News except Shepard Smith is kind of pushing this bogus narrative. Uranium One was actually a company that was purchased, and they ended up getting the rights to mine U.S. uranium here in the United States, and that uranium that could be mined was only able to be sold in the United States and in Canada. It couldn't be exported.
Not to mention that it was not the grade that you need for nuclear weapons.
Yeah, it was used for energy. So, there were some Russians who purchased, I believe it was a majority stake. They purchased a majority stake in this company, Uranium One. So, Russians own part of this company that was mining U.S. uranium and selling it to U.S. companies and Canadian companies for use within the United States and Canada only. The deal had to be approved by, I think it was 6 different agencies within the United States government. Or it wasn't that they had to
I believe it was 9 different agencies that had to sign off on the deal. And one of the agencies was the State Department, which Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, was the head of. Even at that point, though, she didn't deal with every single deal. She had people working under her.
But the deal was completely legal. There was no reason to deny it. And there was no reason for Russia to pay a bribe to Hillary Clinton, because there was nothing wrong with the deal. There was no reason for anyone to turn the deal down, so why would Russia pay Hillary Clinton to approve it when it would have been approved anyway? So that has to be completely bogus right there.
Now, it returned after a month or so on the back burner. The GOP and the Republicans are all bringing it back up because they have this informant named Douglas Campbell, who now is claiming that there was something going on and Obama was dealing with the Russians, and Clinton was dealing with the Russians, and they were involved in a quid pro quo, whatever. But this informant that the GOP is touting as the next big thing in this conspiracy has been pretty much debunked in that the Department of Justice used this guy, Campbell, in the past, and they described him as
basically a criminal.
Well, he was a criminal, but they described him as having serious credibility issues, or is the word that the DOJ used in their briefing to both Democrats and Republicans.
And they basically said the whole Uranium 1 scandal wasn't a scandal, and there's nothing to it.
Now, this is the Department of Justice, which is headed by Jeff Sessions, a Trump appointee. So what is the GOP saying? What is the right and Fox News trying to say? That Jeff Sessions is now part of the deep state?
Well, I think anyone but except Trump is part of the deep state, according to them, which is just totally ridiculous.
So you're going to probably hear a lot about this now that the Devin Nunes memo is kind of off the table and was a big flop. So you're going to be hearing about the Uranium 1 thing again. I'm sure Sean Hannity and all those crazies are going to be talking about it once again. But you know the truth. You can Google it. You can read up on it. That's one of the biggest problems we're having, is that people are getting all their information from Fox News, and they're not using numerous sources to verify what Fox is claiming.
Well, Breitbart, Fox News, and there's all those right-wing fake news. They're not real. I don't even like using that term because Trump uses it. But TruePundit.com is another super right-wing news site which claims to have FBI sources, but they never actually say who they are. There's no information about the people who run the website, and anyone can say they have FBI sources, but they never show any proof of this.
Yes, and I agree. Shepard Smith did an awesome job debunking this, and immediately most of the Fox viewers turn on him, and they're saying that he should be on CNN or MSNBC. They don't like facts, it doesn't seem, and that's sad. CNN is fake news as well, someone just said. Send me one story that CNN got wrong that they did not correct. I can point to numerous that Fox News has.
It's not even worth arguing about, Brian. So there's a couple other stories today. The military parade that Trump's been talking about and touting as the next great thing. The man who claims to have killed Osama bin Laden, the Navy SEAL, he came forward today and basically said that a military parade is third world bull expletive, which I found very interesting. And I really believe that most military personnel feel the same way. It's not about showing how strong you are through a parade. It's about just doing your job. And I don't think that's something that third world countries do, like North Korea. They have military parades.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of over the top, and we talked about that yesterday. It's just not something Americans are used to doing, and it's kind of pathetic, I think.
There's been a lot of people from the GOP who have come forward and actually said the same thing. They also believe that a parade is not something that is American, and I agree 100%. I could see if we were at war with somebody and we came back from war and we brought all our troops back and we have a parade to celebrate something like that. But you don't just have a parade to show off your tanks and your missiles, and you don't just do what North Korea does in order to create propaganda and scare other nations. Everybody knows that we have a military that's 50 times stronger than anyone else. I think it's even more than that. So there's no reason to have a parade to boast about it. It's just ridiculous and un-American.
And somebody just wrote, what's wrong with loving the military? And there's absolutely nothing at all wrong with loving the military. But spending $21 million or whatever they estimated it cost to parade the military around to scare people or to scare our enemies isn't the way to go about it.
If you're gonna spend that kind of money to have a parade, why don't you just use that money to increase the pay of the people in the military? That would make more sense.
Or donate it to veterans groups, or feed homeless veterans. You could use that money in better ways than to brag about how powerful we are. Those who are powerful don't need to brag about how powerful they are.
Just like stable geniuses don't need to say that they're stable geniuses. It's all about his ego, President Trump. It's not a military parade. It's a Donald Trump, look at me, I'm the best thing, please clap for me, damn it, parade. Let's see, anybody have any questions about the military parade or any comments?
I think Eddie had a good tweet yesterday. He said, "Why don't you just fill those tanks with food and supplies and bring them over to Puerto Rico?"
Yeah, I mean, parade them down the streets of Puerto Rico and hand out the food and water to the people in need. I think there was a big story about how the military supplies, the food that was supposed to be given out to everybody in Puerto Rico, the government contract was given to a one-person company who completely failed and basically just didn't give food to anyone. And these people are still starving in Puerto Rico. They're still without power. It's just not American. It's just not the American way of handling things. And of course, President Trump doesn't care because the people in Puerto Rico can't vote for him.
Somebody asked earlier to talk about the whole Carter Page thing again, the thread that we had, the Carter Page thread that we posted 2 days ago, basically suggesting that he may be a double agent. It's very interesting because Carter Page was acting as an FBI informant between 2013 and 2016 in order to catch a few Russian spies on American soil. Now, we're not saying he's a double agent. We're saying that the evidence there points to it either being quite a coincidence or he's a double agent. And the coincidence is that the indictment and the court filings mention Mail 1 as someone who provided the FBI with information regarding the case they were investigating with the Russian spy back in 2013. Now, Mail 1 worked for an energy company out of New York. He also provided binders to these Russians. Now, in a later filing, I believe in the indictment, they mention an undercover FBI employee, number 1, who also worked for an energy company in New York and provided binders to these Russians at conferences. These binders had recording devices in them, and they recorded evidence which allowed them to bust these individuals. Now, is it possible that let me backtrack. Mail 1 is Carter Page. We know this because Carter Page himself confirmed that was him. BuzzFeed also confirmed that was him. Now, is it possible that Mail 1 and the undercover FBI employee are two separate people? It's possible, but they mentioned two separate individuals that pretty much work for energy companies in New York City who provided binders to these Russians at conferences.
At energy conferences in Russia.
So basically I said, it's possible it's all a coincidence, but it's quite a stretch, I believe. So I came to the conclusion that Mail 1 is the undercover FBI informant.
Which means that Carter Page was working for the FBI back in 2013, and then if you believe that he is not an agent of the United States government, which is conceivable, that means that he stopped being an agent of the FBI, or stopped being an informant of the FBI, and then went off and started business again in Russia, by himself on his own, thinking he had good business ties, and then became a subject of investigation by the FBI in that they began looking into him again. So it's interesting. It's something to think about. We might not ever know the truth about Carter Page.
And let me make it perfectly clear. My biggest pet peeve with some of those on the right are conspiracy theories, and the last thing I want to do is start a conspiracy theory. So that's why in the thread I specifically stated that it could be all coincidence. We just put out the information to you guys, and then it's up to you guys to decide what's actually going on. And we took some heat for this. People said that we were pushing a right-wing narrative because the right's also using this story in order to
try and discredit the FBI, saying that Page was illegally working for the FBI as a double agent, which doesn't make any sense.
And there's also issues with the Carter Page theory in that why did the FBI get 4 FISA warrants against him if he was working for them? And
that's something that I really don't have an answer for, and that would sort of debunk the theory, unless there's some reason that they did this. Maybe my thoughts were that perhaps they were unsure if Carter Page was actually on their side, and they needed a FISA in order to spy on him legally to make sure he was on the U.S.'s side. But again, there's other people on the left who claim that we're just starting conspiracy theory, and they got rather angry at us for saying such. And
some of these people are
also conspiracy theorists.
So we're not going to mention any names. It was we were kind of attacked that evening by a few individuals.
We lost some followers,
but who really cares? I don't want people that are following that mindset to follow us anyway. But
we'll pause here for some questions. Anybody have any particular questions? I see Sean C. 1986 that I expect we won't find the truth about Page for decades after declassification. And I feel exactly the same way. It's just Carter Page seems a little too stupid to be so smart. Or too smart to be so stupid, I should say.
But at the same time, he graduated in the top 10% at the Naval Academy.
That's what I'm saying. He seems a little too stupid for how smart he is.
Yeah, exactly. And he has a PhD. He worked for Merrill Lynch as a chief operating officer in their energy department. It's not like this guy is stupid.
Well, and he doesn't have an attorney. He does all these TV interviews. It's just very fishy. Maybe he's just a strange character. I mean, it's very possible. There are smart people out there who just act differently than other people. So who knows? We probably won't ever know. But it's something. It's food for thought.
Carter, if you're watching, you have my number. Call me back.
So, what other topics do we have to discuss today? Was there anything else? President George W. Bush basically came forward and said, yes, Russia meddled in their elections, and basically saying something needs to be done. Meanwhile, President Trump's 8 days past his deadline to implement the Russian sanctions that were imposed, and which were voted by a supermajority in the House and Senate. These sanctions are still not implemented, and Trump hasn't even said a word about what his plans are. My guess is that he's not planning on implementing them. Makes you think again, perhaps goes back to some blackmail material that Vladimir Putin might have on him.
Another story that's kind of breaking this afternoon is the fact that the House Judiciary Committee, the Democrats in that committee, are wanting to bring Jared Kushner and Donald Trump Jr. in for questioning in a public setting, meaning that it'll be televised, and I certainly hope that happens.
It's not going to happen. It's ridiculous that the GOP is saying they're not going to allow them to come in for testimony. It's just, these are two of the most important people in the entire investigation. They don't even care to question. It's like, the only reason you wouldn't call them in is because you know they have something that they can't talk about that would make the GOP and Trump look bad. So it's just ridiculous to think that the Republicans Congress don't care to have Jared Kushner and Donald Trump Jr. to come in. It's just unbelievable.
Somebody just said that the subject of sanctions is barely mentioned by the media. I guess you mean yes, and I think this is a disgrace in the fact that I think the whole fact that the President of the United States, who was clearly helped by the Russians when they meddled in the elections in 2016, is the one who has to decide on whether we should punish those same people who are more than likely going to help him in 2018 and 2020.
Well, Rex Tillerson just came out and said Russia will be interfering in the 2018 elections. Meanwhile, the president isn't doing anything about it. Why? Because it's going to help the Republican Party.
Well, meanwhile, I think it was maybe 2 months ago, Rex Tillerson closed the section of the State Department responsible for issuing sanctions. So it's like there should be a way around this. The House or the Senate, they should be able to implement sanctions without the president, and it's in this case because it's pathetic, because we all know that Trump was helped by the election meddling, so why is he going to penalize them? Not to mention, who knows what Russia would do or release if he did penalize them.
Somebody made a comment, Trump scares the GOP. He rules the news cycles, 41 million Twitter followers, Fox dedicated to supporting him 100%. And that's very true, although out of those 41 million Twitter followers, I think a very, very, very large portion of them are Russian-made accounts, bots and trolls, and just people who make multiple accounts just to follow him and like his tweets to get them trending and get them into the news cycle.
And somebody said that Trump's counting on Russian interference. I guess you mean in 2018 elections and the 2020 election. And he absolutely is. And that should scare everybody, because the Russians have been able to gain access to voter rolls, voter databases in 21 different states. Well, they think it could be as many as 21 states. Now, they didn't have to. The Russians don't need to change votes. That would be difficult. Is it possible that they did? It's possible, but that's not what they need to do. There's two ways that they could have used this to actually influence the election in 2016. The first way is that they could have downloaded the voter rolls, used the information to target those people they thought were most easy to manipulate on social media. They could use that information illegally, that data. The second way is that they could have deleted the voter rolls. And if they did that, that is the exact same thing as if they change votes. You delete 10,000 Wisconsin Democrats in a contentious district, and that's the same thing as deleting their votes.
Well, there were a lot of people who came forward after the election saying that their names were out of the voter rolls and they couldn't vote. Again, you don't really know how accurate that is. Sometimes people say things, and there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there. So, but I believe it. I believe there's people who are removed from the voter rolls either accidentally or through some sort of manipulation.
And it's just going to happen again. It's going to happen in 9 months when we go to vote for Congress and the House. The same exact thing could very well happen. And the government's not doing anything about it. There's nobody within the government can say that they are doing anything to prevent this right now. And that's
breaking news. Donald Trump just tweeted, "As long as we open our eyes to God's grace and open our hearts to God's love, then America will forever be the land of the free, the home of the brave, and a light unto all nations." A very un-Trump-like thing to say, but there you go.
Guess he's trying to keep the religious Republicans
happy
on his side.
Well, he had this speech today, the National Breakfast thing, and I mean, it's just like one giant lie after another when he talks in front of the religious people. This is coming from a man who has an extramarital affair with a porn star, and who allegedly sexually abused, harassed, or assaulted 19 women. So, take it for what it's worth.
Somebody said the stock market almost crashed over the weekend because of him. And you know, the funny thing, I mean, it's not funny if you own stocks. So by no means am I happy that the stock market's dropping. But the funny thing is that yesterday Trump pretty much said the stock market should be going up. He pretty much gave advice, people should be buying stocks. He pretty much said in his tweet. And today the market's down another 650 points. The Dow's down 651 points, 2.6%.
He basically, yesterday he basically said that the stock market isn't doing what it should be doing, which is the most outrageous, ridiculous thing I've ever heard. The stock market does what it wants to do. It doesn't, you can't tell the stock market is doing the wrong thing. That's the whole idea of the stock market. It does what investors think it should do.
And he made that tweet at 10 a.m. Eastern Time yesterday. At 10 a.m., 10 minutes later, the Dow was up, I believe it was like 80 points or something. So people bought stocks based on what Trump said. And today, the Dow's down 650 points. Those same people, they've lost money, or value in the stocks they purchased. And that's because of the President of the United States' advice.
Any other questions before we move on to another topic?
It's really crazy. Every day there's 4 or 5 stories, breaking stories, which if it happened under any other presidency, they would have been bombshells, some of the biggest conspiracies on the planet. But with Trump, it's just another day, and it's picking up steam each week, it seems.
Yeah, I agree. And you got to look at the stock market. Trump kept taking credit for it when it was going up, but it was basically still in that same upward trend that started in 2009, a little bit after Obama took office. The trend did curve up slightly after Trump took office. I'm going to give him credit for that, but I think that's from all the deregulations that he put in place. And he did a tax cut. That stuff generally helps the stock market. You generally do these, it's called fiscal policy.
Deregulation.
Yeah. Well, the fiscal policy that Trump enacted was all expansionary fiscal policy. And typically a president is not supposed to enact expansionary fiscal policy unless a market's looking bad. And the market that he took over was really, really pretty good, even though the right would say otherwise because they basically insulted Obama the entire time he was president. But the market was really good when Trump took over. And if anything, he should have been trying to steady the economy down rather than try and expand the economy by deregulating corporations and deregulating environmental protections and cutting taxes. So basically, he did all this stuff to basically expand the economy and help the stock market. And it did jump a little bit. It was still continued the upward trend, but the slope of that trend line did go up slightly with Trump. And now, if there's a major correction in the market, or if there's some sort of collapse, just like the real estate collapse years ago, there's not going to be any expansionary fiscal policy left to help the economy recover, and that's a big problem because we had a lot of tools in the tool shed to help the economy recover from the real estate bubble. So we're going to be in trouble if there's a monumental collapse again. There's always monetary policy with the Federal Reserve. They can always cut interest rates to boost the economy. But it's usually you usually need a little monetary policy and a little fiscal policy in order to get the economy going again. And Trump really used most of the tools that would be used in a downturn of the economy to help jumpstart it.
And the Fed's going to have to start raising interest rates, which is going to hurt the stock market. If they don't raise interest rates, inflation's probably going to start to run away. And I'm sure Trump's going to try his best to influence his new Fed chairman to not raise rates because he doesn't want to see the stock market drop, and we'll see how that goes. I'm hoping that he doesn't have too much influence with his Fed chairman, but who really?
Well, I'm wondering if it's going to be too late to raise interest rates if the stock market's already collapsing.
It might be, and that's scary if you own a lot of stocks right now. I actually considered shorting the market about a month ago, and I'm about a month too late now. I don't like the stock market right now. I think that it is way overinflated, but I do like, for a market standpoint, the fact that the tax cuts are going to start working their way into the market, and also,
even though the tax cuts are for the wealthy, because it's mostly in corporations, that does help the stock market.
The corporations are going to have extra cash on the balance sheets. Whether they're going to use it to hire people, I doubt it. That's what his narrative is. But they will be able to distribute it as dividends, share buybacks, and it's going to help stock prices in that effect. And then deregulation, in the short run, it's a good move for the stock market. In the long run, you're asking for another housing crisis, all kinds of issues that deregulation can lead up to. That's kind of one of the main causes of the collapse, the Great Recession of 2007 and 2008. What recourse does Congress have to force Russian sanctions? That's really a good question. I need to look into that more. I think that it really relies on the president actually implementing them. I'm guessing that they could maybe vote on another bill which would force the president's hand more, but
I don't trust the GOP to try and force his hand. I know that House voted. I think there are 3 Republicans in the House of Representatives who voted against the sanctions, but I don't see nearly the number who supported the sanctions also supporting a law to overrule President Trump in implementing them, because I don't think they want to step on his toes.
The other option they have is probably a legal means. If an organization or a group wanted to try and sue the president for not implementing the sanctions which Congress voted on overwhelmingly, then they could probably try suing him, and it might be able to be moved up to the Supreme Court, who could force his hand. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that seems like a possible option.
There was an interesting tweet made by President Trump. It was yesterday. It was just all caps, and it said, "New FBI texter bombshells." Basically, these text messages showed that President Obama wanted to be in a loop for the Russia investigation. So he's basically saying these texts are bombshells because President Obama listened to his intelligence agencies and wanted to listen to his intelligence agencies and took part in intel briefings. The funny part is he actually tweeted this tweet while he was in an intel briefing, basically saying, "I don't care about my intel briefings, I care more about these conspiracy theories." So don't listen to the right who's pushing the fact that Obama wanted to be kept in a loop about the Russia investigation. He's the president of the United States. That's what he's supposed to do. It's the largest investigation since Nixon. So why wouldn't the president want to be in the loop for the largest United States investigation, perhaps in the history of the United States?
Somebody just asked, what are you guys hoping to accomplish with these live spots? Nothing more than just informing people about what's going on. We get so many questions via Twitter, direct messages, via tweets, and it's hard for us to answer them all. We thought that maybe if we did this, we could answer some questions in a longer format rather than the 280 characters that were afforded on Twitter.
I'm going to leave our Twitter handles here so you can follow us. I'm Ed Krassen, and Brian is just Krassenstein.
And
you can also email. Why isn't that? You can also email me at ed@edkrassen or ed@edkrass.com. And I try to answer my emails and my direct messages, but I don't always get to all of them.
Also, follow us on Periscope. If you do that, then you'll be notified every time we go live. You'll get a notification, and that would help you become aware of our future live streams. Somebody asked us, your first political post was at inauguration. What makes you a political expert after? I don't consider myself
political experts.
Yeah, we're not political experts. We're kind of just saying what we see happening. It's not like we're going around saying that we're an expert at this and expert at that. We're just giving our commentary.
Yeah, if you read our profiles, there's nowhere that we say we're political experts. I mean, we're both economics majors, so we don't have any political background.
Somebody said, how about those FBI texts?
I just touched on the FBI text. Peter Strzok, the guy who actually is at the center of this with his mistress, Lisa Page, he's actually the FBI agent who wrote the letter that James Comey released right before the election, which some people arguably say cost Hillary the election. So he didn't like Trump, but if I was an FBI agent and I was investigating Trump and I saw ties to Russia and possible collusion and money laundering and whatever else they say they found, I mean, I would be against Trump becoming president too, wouldn't you?
Somebody said, don't worry, guys, neither does the president have a political background.
Somebody said, your dad worked for Trump. Yeah, actually he did. Our father worked in the Atlantic City casinos for a couple decades, and he worked for Trump in some of his casinos. And he doesn't really have good things to say about him.
Any other questions? There's a few other stories we could probably touch on. A recent survey by the Military Times readers polled the readers, and 89% said that a Trump military parade is pretty much a bad idea. So
yeah,
so even those in the military are quite a bit against it. 89% says a lot.
There's also there's a story coming out about several Canadian solar companies are actually suing the president in a suit that says that he's violating NAFTA with his tariffs on import of solar panels and solar equipment. So that should be interesting to see how that goes, see how the courts rule on that.
Yeah, well, one of my biggest pet peeves with Trump is his lack of foresight with technology.
It's like we're moving into a new age of technology. He wants to take us back to the Stone Ages.
Yeah, I mean, solar energy is the future. Solar, wind. Eventually there's going to be fusion a couple decades down the line. But for now, solar and wind will be the future of energy. And he is letting China take the lead with all that. He's putting tariffs on companies. He's rolling back incentives for taxpayers. It's just making America look up to China when it comes to these advancing technologies. And these are industries that are going to grow and grow and grow. And he might think tariffs are good, but in the long run, other countries are going to put tariffs on us. We're going to lose jobs, and
it's just going to hurt us. Somebody just asked if we saw Omarosa's video. Did you see that today, Brian?
No, I didn't.
She's actually on this reality show Big Brother now, and she had some quite disturbing comments to make about her time in the White House. I'm going to see if I can bring this up. I haven't done this before. But I'm going to see if I can stream it here on this live stream. It's really kind of disturbing. Let me see if I can find it. Just give me a minute. Yeah, here we go.
And
I'm gonna try and see if I can add it into the stream here. 1 second. After you watch this video, it's gonna be you can't tell if she's acting or what. But I mean, it's a reality show, so she shouldn't be acting. But at the same time, what she says is quite frightening, I think. Just trying to bring it up. Excuse me for taking so long here. Just gotta figure this out. Alright, I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to see this or not.
from the outside, I said as a voter, a citizen, I never got it. Why you went to the White House with him?
I felt like it was like a call to duty. I felt like I was serving my country, not serving him. Whenever was it accepting a political appointment, it was always about the country. Like, I was haunted by tweets every single day. Like, what is he going to tweet next?
Does anybody say to him, "What are you doing?"
I mean, I tried to be that person, and then all of the people around him attacked me. It was like, keep her away from him. Don't give her access. Don't let her talk to him. And it's like, as long as their Jared's there, and it's...
Who has that power to say what's going on?
No, I'm not there. It's not my circus, not my monkeys. You know, I'd like to say not my problem, but I can't say that because it's bad.
Should we be worried? Don't say that. Because we are worried, but I need you to say, no, it's going to be okay.
Okay, no, it's going to not be okay. It's not.
All right, so I'm sorry, the video got kind of messed up there, but you could kind of see you could kind of hear Omarosa. And it was kind of frightening what she said. It's not going to be okay. That was just kind of scary in my opinion. So I'm sorry about the video there. It didn't work out too well. I got to get used to the software. Are there any other questions or comments?
Can you talk about the situation in Pennsylvania with the justices and the Republicans' refusal to file a decision? I haven't read too much up on it. I just know that basically the Pennsylvania Supreme Court decided that the way they were setting up the districts they were setting up via gerrymandering was unconstitutional, and they basically are going to make them redraw all the districts. Meanwhile, the Republicans are saying that they're going to try and get the justice who...
Well, it went to the Supreme Court. After the ruling by the state courts saying that the Republican gerrymandering was against the state constitution, they challenged it in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court upheld the state court's decision and said that the districts need to be redone on a bipartisan level. So now the Republicans in Pennsylvania are calling for the impeachment of 5 Supreme Court justices, which is just the most absurd thing I've ever heard, trying to impeach judges because they didn't agree with them politically.
Yeah, I mean, it's really pathetic, but the courts are kind of what's saving America right now from the Republicans, and even they are under attack, and it's quite scary.
I wouldn't say the Republicans. I'll say the Trump Republicans.
Yeah.
Because there are some Republicans out there who are against Trump and actually still care about America and America.
Yeah, and I think it's important we distinguish between the two, because once this is all said and done, you're going to need both parties to work together to kind of rebuild what Trump has destroyed, and they attack the left viciously, and we although some of you might think we should be doing the same in return, there's a lot of good people out there who are Republican, who don't agree with everything Trump's doing, who are scared as well. And the worst thing we can do is turn on each other, especially during such a time like this.
Well, what it's going to come down to is the 2018 House elections, I think.
Yeah, the House elections are incredibly important, and if you don't plan on getting out and voting, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you definitely should. You definitely should, and you should definitely urge anyone you know who's not going to vote, because this is probably the most important election we've ever had.
Yeah, and if we can get a lot of Democrats in traditionally Republican House seats, that's going to be beneficial, and it's going to tell the Republicans in the Senate that, listen, we better get our acts together, or we're going to lose our seats as well. And it would also tell future candidates that the whole Trump ideology or his ideologies don't work and don't cut it as when it comes to getting elected.
And right now, unless Mueller comes out with a bombshell, and it's something that Republicans cannot refute via conspiracy theory, they're not going to impeach Trump. So the only way he's going to be impeached is if Democrats have control of the House and probably the Senate if they want to convict him. I don't know if you guys know how it works, but in order to impeach, the majority of the House has to vote for impeachment, and then once that happens, there will be a trial, and basically all 50 senators would be jurors in this trial, and they need a 2/3 vote for conviction. So first you got to get past the hurdle of the House, which right now Republicans have quite a majority in. And then after that, you need 2/3 of the Senate, which is already a majority of Republicans, slightly, to vote to convict. So it's not going to be easy to throw Trump out of office unless there's a Democratic wave in 9 months. And then at that point,
I don't suspect that Mueller is going to be through with his investigation until the new Congress is appointed anyway in 2019.
Yeah, it's going to be close. I think the end of this year is a possibility for Mueller to complete his investigation, or it might kind of go into the beginning part of 2019. So if Democrats win the House and the Senate, there's a good chance that Trump will be thrown out of office if he did in fact commit crimes, which it looks fairly obvious he has.
So far, that's how it looks. I mean, everybody keeps saying, "Oh, there's no evidence yet. There's no evidence yet." Why don't we see any evidence of Russian collusion? You don't see any evidence of Russian collusion because Mueller's the one investigating it, and Mueller keeps a very tight ship. And you're not going to have leaks out of his office unless he wants leaks out of his office. So we're not going to see evidence until Mueller's ready to come after whomever he wants to come after. Just doesn't work that way.
And I'm going to tell you right now, this whole Devin Nunes thing didn't work. Trump did not have reason to fire Rosenstein like he probably had hoped to do. So now they're going to take this Uranium 1 narrative, and they're going to try to implicate Mueller in it, since he was the head of the FBI at the time. And then they're going to try to...
They're probably starting an investigation into Mueller.
They're going to try to investigate Mueller in order to pretty much delegitimize his investigation.
It would partially discredit Mueller in some people's eyes, and it would impede his investigation because he'll be going through grand jury testimony of his own, and who knows what that will come down to and what that's going to cause as far as his investigation goes.
Yeah, so there was the Devin Nunes route, where he was going to use the Nunes memo in order to justify firing Rosenstein, who then he would, at that point, a woman named Rachel Brand would become the deputy attorney general, and whether she would fire Mueller or impede his investigation, I doubt she would have, but that was one route for Trump to kind of at least gain a little bit more influence to kind of delegitimize the Mueller investigation. That didn't work, so now he's turning to the Uranium One and trying to implicate Mueller in the Uranium One conspiracy, which isn't going to work either because the facts are on our side. He wants to prosecute Mueller, someone said, and he wants to delegitimize the Mueller investigation any way he possibly can. What does the FBI do when they can't trust government and confidential information? Somebody said. I think they can trust confidential information. I think that they can also trust government to some extent. Not the president, not the GOP, 100%.
Eddie and the Cruisers was filmed in Summers Point. Yeah, it actually was. We're actually from Summers Point. It wasn't me, though. I wasn't in that movie.
Trey Gowdy, who helped write Nunes' memo, who also altered the Clinton emails, already said that Mueller ain't going. Yeah, he did, and that should give us a little bit of confidence, but anything goes with Trump. You don't know what his next move is going to be. He's very unpredictable. Can you guys play this again today or put it on YouTube?
We didn't record it. We should have been recording it for YouTube, but it does. You can watch it. It's going to stick on. It's going to stay on Periscope, so you can go back and watch it again. Fast forward, do whatever you want to. Skip to different parts of it, but it should stay on there. I think Periscope does delete videos after some time, but it should stay on there for quite some time.
How badly has this hurt us with our allies? I think it definitely has hurt us. In the short run, it's definitely hurt us. In the long run, I think we'll recover once we get a new president. I think there'll be a reset.
Somebody said, any idea what's going on with the stock market? It's just, I think it's a correction. It just depends. I just don't know how large this correction is going to be. Like I said, we were on the Obama trend upward, and then Trump took over, deregulated stuff, cut taxes on corporations, and that trend line kind of increased. The slope of the trend line kind of increased, and there's going to be a correction. Whether that correction just corrects back to Obama's trend line, or if it corrects back to another point during Obama's administration, we don't know, and it's kind of scary. But you need a correction in every market.
Yeah, it's down 783 points the last I checked, which is another significant drop. I think it's probably among the top 5 drops all time in a single day.
Well, I think the top drop of all time before this past week was 778 points. So it's down over that again.
Yeah.
But that's not percentage-wise, so...
Yeah, to be fair, you got to look at the percentage-wise. 780 points now would have been about 350 points 5 years ago. So it's not as bad as it seems, but it's pretty bad.
It's worth noting that last monumental drop of 778 points came under President Bush. During Obama's presidency, we didn't have a huge drop like that. There were some large drops, but nothing quite as significant.
Brian and Ed, what do you think about the Occupy Washington type rally to demand Trump's impeachment? I think that any rally is a good rally, as long as it's not violent, as long as it's a peaceful protest. The more voices you have out there, the better. Whether it's actually going to cause Congress to impeach him or not, I doubt it. But the more protests we have, the better. I think, as long as they're not violent.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, peaceful protest, it gets a message across. Whether it's going to change the mind of some of these GOP congressmen or not, I wouldn't hold out my hopes, but it makes a good impression.
A good way to protest that would actually work is to have something like a general strike where everybody refuses to go to work for a day or a week, and it would hurt the economy. I'm not recommending it per se, but that's something that would actually have an impact. I don't really I don't know if it's a good idea. You don't want to hurt the economy and hurt people. So
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the economy is already, at least the stock market part of the economy is not looking too good in the last couple of weeks. So we don't want to do anything that's going to hurt the American worker. So we got to be careful with what we do.
somebody said vote. That's how you protest. Absolutely. I agree. That's the best way to protest is get out and vote and convince those who aren't going to vote as well. Even if they're Republicans, convince them to vote. The more voices we have, the better. I mean, only 40% of America voted in the last presidential. 40% of registered voters, I believe, voted in the last election. That says a lot.
Yeah, I agree. Retweet. So we have about another 20 minutes or so. I think we'll do this, and then we'll call it a day. But we're going to start doing these more often. If you guys have any suggestions, again, feel free to email us or send us a direct message. My email is ed@edkrassen.com, so feel free to email me. And follow us both on Twitter @edkrassen and @Krassenstein.
Yeah, and also follow us on Periscope, because then you'll get a notification next time we go live, and that's the best way to stay informed on our live feed. Somebody said to discuss the Missouri elections. I've seen the headlines. Democrats in the Missouri state elections dominated compared to how they did in 2016. I believe one Republican seat was flipped, and several other seats several other Republicans lost about 30 points on average in several other seats. They still won the seats, but it shows that there's definitely a Democratic wave and that people are protesting Trump.
Yeah, definitely. Somebody asked, did Trump really block you? And yes, Trump blocked both of us, actually, and I think that probably happened, 6 months ago.
Yeah, I'm actually blocked by Trump. I'm blocked by his son, Donald Trump Jr. It's funny, he blocked me because I tweeted to him that something about Russia. I asked him a question about his connection to Russia, and immediately he blocked me. Sean Hannity blocked me, and it's not like I'm posting hateful tweets to any of them. I'm just giving my opinions and asking them questions. So they don't have a very they're not very open to free speech, I guess. And yes, we do block people as well. So I'm not going to criticize them totally, but I block people who post lies about me and attack me personally because of my opinion.
Well, sometimes there's bot accounts out there that just basically copy and paste messages repeatedly, and I block them. I think I've blocked over 3,500 accounts, and I actually shared that with Brian. You can export your Twitter blocks and let others import them, which is kind of useful, I think. So yeah, it's one of those things.
Yeah, Marie just said, do you think Russia will try and hack the election again? I'm 100% certain that Russia's going to try to hack the election again. If it worked one time, then why aren't they going to do it again?
And Rex Tillerson just came out and said that, I think yesterday or today, that Russia will hack the election in 2018. Meanwhile, the sanctions that were imposed are not being implemented by Trump, and he doesn't give any explanation as to why. I think we know why. There's probably one or two reasons. One of those reasons is he knows that Russia's going to help Congress win some more Republican seats. And the other reasons, who knows what Putin has on Trump as far as dirt goes, or a compromat, as they call it.
Yeah, their ops are definitely still ongoing. You can see that with the bot traffic on Twitter. Just 3 days ago, Eddie literally had hundreds of.
Well, I still do. I look at my account, and I literally have new accounts, no profile photos, following 70 people with no followers, no tweets. I literally have hundreds of these accounts following me every day, and I have no idea why. I don't know what they're planning, but I checked into these accounts, and they're also following other Democrats like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Hillary Clinton. So I don't know if they're planning some sort of bot attack where they just spam different accounts or what?
It's almost as if they're getting ready for some bombshell to be released by Mueller or the investigation, and they're preparing to attack back. That's kind of what it seems like.
Somebody asked, would it be possible to suspend elections under the pretext of Russian attacks? And, I don't think that we have that option if Congress and Trump aren't implementing these sanctions. They're basically saying we don't care. Perhaps if organizations could get together and get the Supreme Court to do something, maybe that's an option. But I think the odds of that are pretty slim.
You didn't discuss a disturbing video of Trump's hair. Yeah, I posted that yesterday, and I think the video I posted had 2.6 million views, so it's definitely getting out there. Others posted it as well before me. It's definitely not something I want to see too much.
Yeah. So basically, if you haven't seen the video, it's on Brian's Twitter account. Trump's walking up the ramp onto the airplane, and it's a really windy day, and the wind's just blowing his hair up and over, and then he turns around and walks up the ramp, and basically the whole back of his head, the hair, even back here where most men aren't bald, the whole thing just like comes undone and blows up and flaps up. And he turns around real fast and just flaps right back down on his head. It was quite entertaining.
Yeah, it was entertaining, but there's other things you focus on rather than that. I think
it was just a funny video.
Yeah.
It's that the hair doesn't make a president.
Yeah, he beat Trump with or without his hair.
If I was him, I'd personally shave it off, but his fashion sense is up to him, not mine or yours or anyone else's.
I'm sure he probably spends more time dealing with his hair in the morning than getting intelligence briefings.
Yeah, I would have to agree. So
we have about another 10-15 minutes here. Are there any other topics we'd like to discuss?
The stock market is now down 842 points, or 3.38% today, which is quite monumental. We haven't seen a crash as bad as this since, last week?
Yeah, the market's actually down about 11% since its peak only about 2 weeks ago. So, every stock market, every stock market has a correction now and then. So you could definitely see this going down more. Even if it goes back up, you could definitely see a 20% correction here, which means there's definitely a ways to go, and I'm sure that's not going to make Trump very happy since he's been bragging about his effect on the stock market.
Yeah, if Trump's going to take credit for the stock market soaring when it barely exceeded the trend line that Obama's stock market took for the past 8 years, he has to take blame when it crashes too, or when, I wouldn't call this a crash, but when it corrects itself. It's still his stock market. Instead, yesterday he decided to blame the stock market rather than anyone else. Somebody asked if we're twins. Yes, we're twins. We're identical twins. I'm 20 seconds older. I'm Eddie, by the way, and that's Brian.
Let's see. Here's a question. Who do you think is a good candidate for president for the Democrats? I really have mixed feelings on this. I think that there's several candidates who would make a good president. I think it would be nice to see a woman get the nomination. I think that Joe Biden's a great candidate, but I think he's also getting up there in age. I think he would be over 80 after his second term. I think there's some young male candidates as well.
Cory Booker, Eric Swalwell.
Swalwell's only a congressman, so he might have some more time
before he actually runs.
But they would be good vice presidents as well. I think Gillibrand's a good female candidate. I think Elizabeth Warren is definitely a good candidate. She's getting up there in age as well. Somebody said Biden and Kamala Harris. I think that would be an awesome ticket as well.
I think if it's not a woman running for president, the vice president should definitely be a woman.
Adam Schiff. I don't disagree there, but I think that maybe
he might be a little bit too far to the left
yeah.
in order to get some of the Republican votes.
I think Oprah's a bad idea. She kind of dispelled all that, I think, yesterday. But I don't think we need another TV personality right now. I don't doubt that she'd be a good president, but I think that she'd have, I don't know, I think she'd have problems running. I think that the right would probably attack her as inexperienced, even though Trump's...
Yeah, and we're gonna need, I think we're gonna need somebody with political background to fix the mess that Trump created. So maybe Oprah down the road in 8 to 12 years, but I think we need a politician. I know people say, oh, we don't want politicians, but I just think we do. I don't think Bernie Sanders is going to run. If he does, I don't think he'd have much of a shot just because of his age. Biden, if he runs, I think he's going to need to basically say, I'm running for one term only, and basically have a really good vice president running mate.
Somebody said Joe Kennedy. I think he's definitely... I think he's a good vice presidential candidate right now. I don't think he's quite there yet for a presidential candidate.
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi, somebody mentioned. She's
also
too old. She's 77. She'll be 80 by the time the elections roll around. So I don't see people voting for somebody that they know is going to be 84 years old by the end of their term. I just think that's too old. She would be a great candidate if she was a little younger. And Biden will be 81 in his fourth year. That's why I say I think he needs to basically say he's only running for one term. And
also, Eric Holder, somebody mentioned that there's actually been a lot of stories about him possibly running. I like Eric Holder, but I think that there's a lot of controversy surrounding him, and that the right would dive into all sorts of conspiracy theories there. So it would be scary if he ran. I think he'd make an awesome president, though. I think it's a very talented field. I think that I just hope that they don't all attack each other and ruin it for all of them. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. I think that there's also a chance that there's going to be a Republican who's going to try and challenge Trump for the nomination,
and that should be interesting. But it's really hard to do.
And if a Republican challenged Trump for the nomination and defeated Trump, they'd have no chance because all the Trump Republicans would not vote. At least I would think.
Well, they'd vote, but probably they wouldn't be as enthusiastic, and the people who normally don't vote wouldn't come out and vote for him or her. So we're coming up on 4 o'clock, and I think this has been a good show. It's our first one, or really our second one, first official one where we actually had stuff to talk about. We're going to try and do these at least once or twice a week. We'll probably try and come up with a formal schedule.
Yeah, and we want to get it more organized, but I think we're learning as we go. If you guys have any feedback, that would be great to hear. I know this isn't very professional. It's not a very professional format, and we're not really going for that. We're not doing this to make money. We're not getting anything out of it except informing you guys, which I think is the most important thing right now.
So basically, we'll probably come out with a schedule of when we're going to be doing these, and maybe we'll take some ideas for discussion leading up to those shows. I'm going to work on the software. Where we're using a software called OBS, and it basically lets you manage the streaming. And like you saw when I played that Omarosa video earlier, I kind of messed it up, but we'll figure it out. And Words with Joe said doesn't need to be formal. Informal is best, and I agree. I mean, I don't want to be the next Sean Hannity. I think that just a setting where we can all chat and answer you guys' questions and also learn about what's going on is probably the best way to go about things. We might also experiment with having guests call in, like maybe some congressmen, congresswomen, people running for office, and other political figures out there. Maybe we'll have some of them call in and do a question and answer with them as well.
Yeah, we've been in communication with many of the Democrat congressmen and women, or not congressmen and women, but the candidates for Congress who are running against key Republicans in key districts
For
in
US
2018. And I think that it will be interesting to get some of them on to give their thoughts on some topics as well, and also to help them out, help them gain recognition, so that when November rolls around, they do have a chance.
Yeah, definitely. I think we all need to support the Democrats running for office for 2018. It's a big election, perhaps the biggest Congress election ever.
All right, I'll sit up straight. Somebody told me to sit up straight, so here I'm sitting up straight.
He gets a comfortable chair. I have this hard wooden back chair, so it's not too comfy. I'd probably be slouching a little bit more if I had a comfortable chair like he does. But yeah, if somebody asks if I run for office, and I don't foresee that happening. I just don't. But who knows? I mean, we're still young, so maybe one day I'll retire and think, oh, I should run for office.
Yeah, right now he has 2 young sons. I have a son, and we enjoy spending time with them. Running for office isn't something that either of us are considering.
Yeah, and after all the dirt that the Russian bots have spread about us already, I can't imagine how it would go running for office with all the false rumors and stuff spreading about us. But I guess it's part of being on Twitter anymore. Anybody else have questions, either about us personally or about our Twitter accounts? Since we're closing out the show, if anybody has any questions.
I'm going to have a couple of daughters soon. VN Music said, congratulations.
Congrats.
Are they twins, I assume? Don't agree with most of your views, but always respect and love to read your tweets. Well, thanks, Robert. That means a lot. And I don't expect everybody to agree with our views, and we definitely don't agree with other people's views, so we know how it is. And the best thing is to discuss the issues. That's the best thing, when you don't agree with somebody.
So the Dow is apparently down it's down $1,034 today. The Dow.
This would actually be the second largest drop in history of the stock market, only second to last week's drop, I believe, on Thursday.
Yep, I believe you're correct. That's a pretty large drop in the market. And
how do we stay unscared? It's definitely frightening. Frankly, I'm not really scared. I think that America will recover, and I think that there's enough good people in America and enough smart people in America to make sure that the conspiracies, the stuff that Fox News and Sean Hannity push, will eventually be discredited.
Yeah, a couple things I've seen in the comments. Somebody asked, how do you copy and share Twitter blocks, as in people you've blocked? If you go into your settings in your account, there's something where you can see blocked accounts. And if you click on that, there's a little link that says, I think it says export or import. And if you click on that, you can either export or import. So you can export them, and then it downloads as a comma-separated value file that you can share with other people. You basically just send them the file, and they can import it into their Twitter accounts under their block section. So that's helpful to get rid of some of the bots and stuff like that. Somebody else mentioned Rob Porter. That's something we didn't discuss on the show. Rob Porter is a White House aide who is accused of abusing 2 of his ex-wives, and it's really disturbing that Fox News has not even mentioned Rob Porter at all. They're basically hiding the scandal. They don't want anybody to know about it. But it's definitely another scandal where another Trump associate. A couple weeks ago, was Steve Wynn, the casino mogul who's a huge RNC contributor, was alleged to have been abusive to women, and now it's Rob Porter, the White House aide, who I believe is resigning.
Yeah, and some people are calling for Kelly to resign because
John Kelly, that is.
Yeah, it's John Kelly to resign, the chief of staff, because he allegedly knew that Porter was beating his wives, or had beat his wives, and didn't do anything about it. In fact, he kind of convinced him to stay, I believe. So I don't agree that that was a good move by Kelly, and I think that calls for his resignation aren't unfounded.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, so I'm gonna leave our Twitter account handles here for you guys who follow us if you'd like. If you don't already, I'm just typing them right now. And also, I'm going to leave my email address if you'd like to send me an email.
And most importantly, follow us on Periscope so that you will be notified whenever we go live, which I'm thinking probably next week sometime. It might be Monday. Like Ed said, we're going to try doing 1 or 2 of these a week and cover the news for the day or the week, and kind of have a discussion like we had today.
And if you have any ideas for discussion topics, feel free to email me or direct message us on Twitter. We don't always read our messages on Twitter unless they're direct messages, and I know you can't direct message us unless we follow you back, so you can resort to the email. The email is also listed on my Twitter account. So yeah, feel free to do that. Maybe I'll have Brian add the email address to the Periscope account here, so you can always check that. But yeah, don't forget to follow us here on Periscope. There should be an option. If you don't have the app, you can download the app and you can basically watch it on your phone. You can get notifications when we go live. And
I see one person said, I think you guys did an interview where one of you guys was threatened. We actually do get threats, more than some of you would probably guess. We have people trolling our YouTube channels and posting disgusting things about our kids, and it's really sad that people resort to that just because they disagree with your opinions. I would never do that to somebody. I think it's disgusting. Somebody called some family members and basically attacked us to them, and it's just
it's disturbing, but you just got to move on. So I guess that's it.
Thanks for joining us, and look for us to do another one of these sometime next week, probably Monday or Tuesday, I'm guessing.
Yes, definitely. Thanks again, guys. Bye.